So, as you guys know, yesterday we talked about the Renaissance. Furthermore, what? Yes, they are. Or somebody else. They're just in a spot. If you go to library, it's the top, looks like a page. You'll actually have a couple different websites. One of them is the YouTube page. However, if you go there, it doesn't have the most currently updated videos for some reason. So if you click on videos, you'll see where it says the Renaissance, and it's got a picture and easy peasy.
The library guide?
Yes, the library guide.
It says the folder. How do you
There might be an error with your. I don't know, it showed up on the tab. Someone else try on your home PC, let me know. Yes. I can't hear a word you're saying. Guys, is there a reason you're talking now? Because if it's anything other than, hey, I need this for World Civ, it needs to stop this segment. Now, please ask your question. What? Renaissance. Wait, what's what called? Renaissance. Okay. Somebody do me a favor, try out a computer. And if it's not working, let me know and I can keep digging into it. Because it should show up in the library. And if it's not, I don't know. Okay. So, you guys also saw you have 2 assignments to do. Let's do next week. Both of them are primary source readings from the period we're talking about, one of which I'm actually literally about to put up a slide about. So, what you need to do is answer questions. And again, the way I understand it's supposed to work is you respond like you would to any other post on like Facebook or something like that. You literally, what's on your mind, type in the answer, and that's it. It's not like that, let me know. Yes.
Oh, so like where it says reply to this post, is that where you're
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
I tried to log in at one time, and it like pulled it up the word document.
Yeah, that's the assignment that it'll pull up.
But like, how do you try that?
So when you click on respond to this, it just pulled up the Word documents?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was on the laptop.
What's on the what?
It was on my laptop.
Okay. Yeah, that's not how that's supposed to work. Okay. I'll look into it. Admittedly, I might have to completely rearrange how we're doing these assignments. So if it's, you can't respond to it anyway, you don't see a way to do it, don't worry about it right now. I'll adjust it. But I was led to believe that the way that that's supposed to work is literally it's like you respond and a little text thing opens up and you just type. But if that's not the case, then I don't know. It'll be interesting. What I'll do is here in a minute, I'll take a look at it. I was going to say, you guys know Wednesdays is a different day because Wednesdays is Resource Day. So the way I run Resource Days is this. I expect you guys to be doing something. I don't want to hear you, basically. A little bit chitty-chatty is fine, but like the levels at which you guys were talking just a few minutes ago, absolutely unacceptable. One thing you'll notice anyone goes and listens to this YouTube video, I was recording it the entire time. So basically, you guys talking to the front row caught every word you said. It's on YouTube. So, just being aware of that fact. Sorry? Yes, let me put it this way. Some awkward conversations get broadcast for the world to hear. So just, beware of that fact.
Wait, are you videotape?
It's recording now. Yeah, the voice is being recorded.
Oh,
Every lesson's recorded, guys. So if you go on YouTube, you'll not only be able to see the slides, you'll also be able to hear the voice. It's not the greatest quality in the world. Because it takes more time than I could have put into editing. That's not how it works with Smart. The way I would have to do that is to export it to Movie Maker, then go edit it, then re-export it out of Movie Maker, and then upload to YouTube. Yeah. But the library hasn't been showing up. It says nothing there. Okay. Well, guys, let's not worry about Edmodo right now. Let's drop that from our conversation because right now we have to focus on notes. That's our big important thing to do. Once resource begins, I'll start trying to fix Edmodo. Yes.
So, like, does your little voice thing pick up, like, whispering?
Yes. It'll hear. It actually has a pretty good microphone in terms of like detail. So, like, if you guys in the back row are talking about something, it'll pick you up. So basically, do not talk about anything you don't want your parents to hear.
That is really bad.
Me personally, then all I can know where they sit now. I check to make certain that it's working. I don't care. I'm just saying that I've had girls talk about like wildly inappropriate topics, and I'm like, you know that's on YouTube now, right? And they're just like. Now the other reason behind that is saying is that for some reason, like people think like, especially when they come to school, that like they're just invisible. Whatever they're talking about, like no one else hears. Like everyone else hears it. And you know, there's a lot of things we don't really want to hear about. No.
Can we hear it real fast? No.
Go on YouTube. Go on YouTube.
People are going to think I'm annoying.
Can I look it up real fast?
No.
What are you talking about?
Guys, remember when I was saying that everything else is not important and notes are? Yeah, we've already lost like 10 minutes of time. And I'm getting through the same amount of notes regardless, so basically you better go on YouTube and catch up, because I'm not slowing down. So this is what we talked about, and then we went through all this. Oh my God. That is Raphael's work, The School of Athens. We talked about it yesterday. And for some reason, like the network is totally like shot. It's probably because I'm recording, but nobody's going down at that. All right. So one of the important things that happens during the Renaissance is that there's a massive increase in the printed word. Books are starting to be mass-produced. So the subject matter begins to change. For instance, we go from just printing religious texts, i.e. the Bible, to printing things about daily life. One of the important things being how-to books. You know, sort of like Internet is for Dummies. Well, in this case, it is Court Politics are for Dummies. How to administer yourself well so that the king and others will take notice of you and lead you to a better life. Because one of the ways as a noble, in fact really the only way to advance your station, was by coming to notice of the king and having him give you stuff. It's also possible you have marriages that were advantageous, but ultimately to do anything you really want to do, you had to have good manners. And so Baldassare Castiglione wrote a book called The Book of the Courtier, which explained how to be a courtly person, how to be a courtier, how to go out and make a good impression. It's a book of etiquette. It's a book on how to properly dance, how to eat, basically anything you might need to know, with many certain examples. Another book on how to be an appropriate king or leader or prince, as he often uses the word, is a book by Niccolò Machiavelli, which is simply called The Prince. One of your assignments is to read part of that. Now, one thing you'll notice about Machiavelli, is that he really believed in the concept of the ends justify the means. Do you guys know what that expression means? The ends justify the means? It doesn't matter what you do as long as the end result basically the end result of it matters. So, for instance, if you want to be a good king, you can be as ruthless as you need to be so long as you're a good king, as long as you're stable. So, for instance, rebellions were seen as a really bad thing. Rebellions destabilize you, get you off the throne, get you out of power, and ultimately make the world worse. And so rebellions need to be stopped. So how would you stop a rebellion? Well, one simply ruthless way would be you find out who the leaders of the rebellion are and threaten to have their whole entire family executed or kill all their family members and basically use fear as a motive. That, however, isn't really that effective because all that does is just make people upset. Machiavelli wouldn't suggest that. Although he would have no moral qualms with it, he said that it's not a good idea. Instead, he would suggest something like you meet with the leaders of the rebellion and find out what their individual grievances are, and you take some of them, especially for nobles, and give them what they want and turn them against their friends, and then crush that side of the rebellion. So another perspective that many people in war have had to make a distinction about is the question of friendly fire and the question of who are your targets, who's the enemy. For instance, Al-Qaeda would use children to carry bombs to soldiers and blow themselves up, not knowingly. They just told, hey, take this basket of fruit over to those soldiers over there. They take the basket, there's a bomb in it, kaboom. So the U.S. troops find out about this, and they see a kid walking towards them and say, stop. The kid doesn't stop. What do? Shoot and kill a kid? Machiavelli would say, yeah, that's exactly what you do. The morality of it doesn't even come into play. It's irrelevant. The morality is you have to do what you got to do. So it's pragmatic, if that makes any sense. There's no morality in it, as opposed to what you need to stay in power. So it's often seen as being rather like kind of callous and cold, but it is a manner of suggestion about how to be a good king. So like I said, you're going to read one of those. Furthermore, you might remember we talked about the humanists yesterday, folks who were trying to criticize the church and the abuses they saw from the church. One of those is a guy named Dante Alighieri, and you're going to be reading one of his works that is Dante's Inferno. It's actually 3 parts of one work. It's together called the Divine Comedy. Part 1 is the Inferno, which is hell. Part 2 is Purgatory, and Part 3 is heaven. And basically, it is a journey through all the different stages, and it's political commentary along the way. The way he did this is, supposedly this person, Virgil, is taking Dante himself through a tour of hell, and each layer of hell, because it's organized like a cone, has one sin that's punished, and the punishment usually is in standing with whatever the sin was in the first place. So, for instance, people who were miserly, who, like Ebenezer Scrooge, so like, were really greedy and tied too much to money, would have large baskets or chests of money that was hanging from chains around their neck, like holding them in one place. They would never leave this one area because they were afraid of other people stealing their money. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Was that one that mentioned like burning rocks?
Was what? Burning rocks in the feet? Yeah. And there's several others as well. But you guys are going to be reading one canto, because it's actually a poem, believe it or not. It's an epic poem. And canto refers to song. You're reading one song. It's the one that's really long and goes into detail about one particular circle. Actually, it's a subdivided circle of hell, the Bal Bolge, which you will be commenting on. Right. So, back to a new session of slides. The spread of the Protestant Reformation and the spread of the Renaissance. So, the thing that really spreads the Renaissance, and indeed begins the Protestant Reformation, is the invention of Johannes Gutenberg's printing press. Now, the printing press is basically a machine that makes books. It's a printer. The way it works is it's got a frame that you affix metal letters into. It's called movable type. And using those letters, you create words and sentences and paragraphs and pages that you then dip in ink and stamp on a sheet of paper. It's if you ever played with stamps as a kid, like one of the big ink pads and you make stamps, it's the same sort of process essentially. What it allows you to do is print books much more quickly and thus disseminate information. The printing press really invents the information age. You guys live in an information age where you have access to as much information as you possibly want, information overload. You can find out basically how to do anything with a matter of a Google search. You crack your iPhone case, the screen, you want to figure out how to replace it, you can watch a YouTube video about them taking it apart and do it yourself. There's absolutely nothing on there you couldn't figure out. Hypothetically, you could do surgery by watching it. It wouldn't be a good idea, but you could do it. Now think about a time where you don't have access to information. You don't know anything. There's no way of learning anything short of someone else telling you how to do it. Books were very, very rare in the Middle Ages. The only way that they were made was by hand writing them. So, for instance, monks in monasteries would copy down the Bible, and they would make these beautiful works of art, because paper being very rare, and they didn't want to waste any. So when they had a sheet of paper with the Bible verses printed on it, they filled in the margins with these flowing pictures of plants and animals and saints and angels. And these were called illuminated manuscripts. But they were also very time-consuming. And the more time and effort you put into making something, the more expensive it becomes. So books were very expensive, and there weren't very many of them. The printing press changes all that. Anybody can have a book. Anybody can have a Bible. This actually helps to increase literacy, and kind of goes up with it. But the other important thing is this. The point of a Catholic Mass essentially is what? Why do you go to Mass? What is the priest's job at a Mass to do? What are they doing? Yeah, they're teaching you your faith. Here's the Bible says, now let me explain to you what that means. Okay? Now imagine, again, in the Middle Ages, not many people can read. Furthermore, the Masses were in Latin. Not everyone spoke Latin. And so, basically the priest says this whole homily to explain the thing that other people don't understand. With the mass production of Bibles, specifically when Bibles are being printed in the vernacular, which is the common language of the people, this puts that whole thing to an end. Suddenly you don't need priests to tell you what is what, because you can just figure it out yourself. That's what a printing press looks like, by the way. And this is an illuminated manuscript. It's actually a Gutenberg Bible, which is the very first printed Bible, but you get the idea. So as books are mass-produced, they're going to be physically taken to other cities from the south in northern Europe. And that's going to start other little renaissances as their own various groups of artists and writers take the torch, so to speak, and run with it. So the first city to experience Renaissance in northern Europe is Flanders. Some Renaissance went back with Albrecht Dürer, and then Desiderius Erasmus. Now, Sir Thomas More is English, and he's going to be a guy who really pushes for a number of changes. He's a humanist. He actually writes a book called Utopia, and that book has such a profound impact on the human language, and the English language, we say, that the word utopia comes to mean any idyllic society, any society where everything is perfect. So what a utopia is it's a criticism. It's a criticism of the politics of the time. But the thing is, it's flat out coming out and saying, hey, you guys are all wrong, to a bunch of powerful men with an army at their disposal is not the smartest thing if you want to live. So it was instead worded as a work of fiction. We're talking about this ideal society. It doesn't mean that, hey, we're going to make this society. It just means that, this is what a perfect society would look like. In turn, criticizing any other society is not like that. So, for instance, he talks about how there is no execution in his utopia. They have other ways of making the punishment fit the crime. there's no war, that sort of thing. And Sir Thomas More is interesting for a couple of the reasons as well. He actually was the tutor of King Henry VIII. He also eventually became the head of his government and then was canonized because he refused to acknowledge Henry as the head of the Church of England. So the situation is kind of dire for Sir Thomas More, but nevertheless, he changed a lot of different things. Other important Northern Renaissance men include folks like Miguel de Cervantes. You guys know Miguel de Cervantes? Okay, he wrote a book called Don Quixote. What about William Shakespeare? Oh, I heard that guy, yeah. William Shakespeare is a well-known English Renaissance author, although it is somewhat debatable whether he was a true Renaissance author or a medieval one, but I won't bore you with the details of that. The main thing is he's on that cusp. He's really kind of the genesis, if you will, of what we see a Renaissance author doing. But he also was very political. We tend to read books and plays that he wrote that were really more kind of entertainments, like especially his tragedies and things like that. But there was actually a number of political plays he did that aren't near as popular today. Okay, that's where we stop. We'll continue this tomorrow. In the meantime, I am going to try to get this Edmodo situation figured out. This